This is a story I stumbled upon in Salem's forgotten archives. Whether it's truth or a chilling tale spun by the town's ghosts, one thing's certain. It clings to you like damp mist. The wind tore through Salem's ancient streets like a banshee's cry, sharp and too alive. Clara Vaughn, a 27-year-old grad student from Boston, pulled her wool scarf tighter, her breath fogging in the October chill. Her boots clicked on cobblestones, slick with mist that clung to the town like a shroud. She'd come to Salem for her thesis on the 1692 witch trials, drawn by the promise of dusty archives and historical rigor, not the touristy witch hats and pumpkin lattes. But tonight, Salem felt wrong. The air pressed against her skin, heavy with a presence that watched, waited. Street lamps flickered, casting jagged shadows that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. Clara glanced at her watch. 11:58 p.m. She'd stayed late at the Peabody Essex Museum, poring over trial transcripts, and now the town was a ghost. Her rented room at the Hawthorne Inn was a mile away, but the shortcut through Old Salem's alleys felt riskier than usual. She quickened her pace, the echo of her steps unnaturally loud. At the stroke of midnight, a scream shattered the silence. Not from any house or alley, but from the shadows themselves. It was raw, anguished, a chorus of voices braided into one piercing wail. Clara froze, her pulse hammering. The shadows on the brick walls weren't hers. They stretched, thin and skeletal, with fingers that curled toward her like claws, moving against the light's logic. Her instincts screamed run. She bolted toward Gallows Hill, the site where 19 accused witches were hanged centuries ago. She didn't know why. Some primal pull, or maybe her research had rooted the place in her mind as the heart of Salem's darkness. The wail pursued her, not behind but inside her skull. A cacophony of voices pleading, cursing, weeping. Clara's thesis had uncovered a name erased from history. Mercy Blackwood, a woman accused not of witchcraft but of something unspeakable, binding the souls of the executed to Salem's shadows, trapping them in eternal torment. The townsfolk, gripped by fear, had burned her alive in a secret pyre, scrubbing her from records. But Mercy's final words, scrawled in a forgotten pastor's diary, were a curse. "My shadows will wail until your blood answers." Clara's lungs burned as she reached the clearing at Gallows Hill, a grassy knoll ringed by gnarled oaks, their branches like claws against the moon. The air thickened, tasting of ash and iron. Her flashlight sputtered, its beam dimming to a sickly yellow before dying. Moonlight was all she had, and it revealed a nightmare. Shadows pooled at her feet, liquid and alive, rippling against the grass. They rose, forming silhouettes, men and women, their necks snapped at wrong angles, nooses swaying in a wind Clara couldn't feel. Their faces were voids, but their eyes hollow, glowing pits, locked onto her with desperate hunger. A voice, colder than the grave, rasped from the darkness. "You found me, scholar. Free us or join us." Clara's knees buckled, but she clung to her resolve. She wasn't just a student. She was a skeptic, raised on logic, not superstition. Yet here she stood, facing the impossible. Her hands, clammy and trembling, fumbled for her leather-bound notebook, where she'd transcribed Mercy Blackwood's unbinding spell. She'd found it in a locked box in St. Peter's Church, hidden beneath a false floorboard, its pages brittle and stained with what looked like blood. The spell was in a tongue she barely understood, Old English mixed with something older, guttural, like the language of graves. Each word felt like a shard of glass in her throat as she began to chant, "Umbras Salvera, Sanguis Redimir." The shadows screamed louder, their wails slicing into her mind like knives. They clawed at her arms, her legs, leaving welts that burned as if branded. Blood trickled from a scratch on her cheek, warm and coppery. The ground quaked, roots splitting the earth. From the heart of the clearing, a figure emerged. Mercy Blackwood. No mere ghost, but a presence that warped the air. Her skin was charred, flaking like ash, her dress a tattered shroud. Her face split in a grin, teeth blackened and sharp, her eyes pits of tar that swallowed the moonlight. "Blood for blood," she hissed. her voice a blade across Clara's nerves. Clara's chant faltered. Her research had warned of a sacrifice, a single drop of blood to complete the spell and free the trapped souls. But Mercy's gaze promised no mercy, no end. The shadows pressed closer, their forms sharpening. Giles Corey, pressed to death, his chest caved. Bridget Bishop, her lips moving in silent curses. Their wails were a storm now, deafening. Each voice a plea and a threat. Clara's mind raced. She'd come to Salem seeking truth, not death. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, a warning from childhood. Don't dig too deep, Clara. Some things don't want to be found. She gripped her pen, its steel nib glinting. One prick, one drop, one chance. She raised it to her palm, but Mercy's laugh stopped her. A sound like shattering glass, echoing in the oaks. You think your blood is enough? The shadows surged, wrapping her ankles, her wrists, pulling her to her knees. Clara's scream was swallowed by the chorus. Desperate, she stabbed the pen into her hand, blood welling, and shouted the spell's final words. Per sanguinem liberari. The air exploded with light, white-hot, blinding. When her vision cleared, Clara was alone. The shadows were gone, the wails silent. Her hand throbbed, blood dripping onto the grass, mingling with dew. Mercy's presence had vanished, the clearing still under the moon's cold gaze. Clara's chest heaved, her mind fraying. Had she done it? Freed them? She stumbled to her feet, notebook clutched like a lifeline, and staggered back to town. The streets were quiet now, the air lighter, but her skin still burned where the shadows had touched. Dawn broke over Salem, painting the rooftops in soft gold. A jogger found Clara's notebook on Gallows Hill, its pages torn, stained with red smears. The town buzzed with tourists, their laughter jarring against the night's horror. Locals noticed a change. The air felt cleaner, the streets less oppressive. But at night, they avoided Gallows Hill. The shadows, they whispered, still moved, subtle but wrong, stretching too far, too fast. The wails were fainter, but hungrier, sharper, like a blade honed by time. Clara's name never hit the news. Her room at the Hawthorne Inn sat untouched, her thesis unfinished. Her advisor called it a dropout, a shame. But some in Salem, the old ones who knew the town's secrets, spoke of her in hushed tones. They said her voice lingered in the wind, woven into the endless cry of the wailing shadows. And on moonless nights, when the mist rolled thick, those shadows reached a little farther, searching for the blood that was never enough. More stories are waiting in the dark. If you want to hear them, you know what to do. Click subscribe before one of them comes looking for you.